Welcome back to another episode of Searching for McGuffin with your hosts,
George.
Gabe.
And the disembodied voice once again of...
Dan.
There it is.
Yeah. Oh, but we don't know if he's actually going to say
better
it.
that time.
Oh, yeah, it was better. Yeah, sorry. Oh, but I forgot that we weren't really sure if he was going to say anything this week.
I'm still here as I'm still on the ceiling.
I think he should do this for every episode, even if he's
Even if he's not
going to
talking.
make a physical appearance.
Even if he makes a physical appearance?
Even if he's not going to make a physical appearance.
Oh, okay. It's the spirit of Dan. Well, we are coming up on the summer of Dan, so...
Are you guys excited for that?
Are you?
Because I am.
Put it in the comments. Do we leave our comments on? I don't even know.
What's a
We do have comments.
Oh, okay.
Drop a comment if you're excited for Summer of Dan.
Summer of Dan, whatever that means.
I'm not.
But we are.
But we're fully. I don't think I can say what I was gonna say.
We're ready for Dan to be
Let's
born
just say-
again.
Fully prepared for Summer of Dan.
I am standing in a straight line. I am vertical. Yes, it is firm. I've said too much. All right.
It is firm.
Last week we talked.
Careful, man. You might get canceled.
Oh man, I think I have to leave the show.
You think you should. Oh my gosh.
By the way, let's talk about how that's 2 episodes in a row where we set up the bit that our in-house producer Nick wanted to say and then didn't say it.
He's too busy playing whatever game he's playing on his phone right now.
He's actually doing a speed run of Kirby while he produces the show. It's crazy.
Which is disrespectful but impressive at the same time.
He's live streaming. It's a live stream of our live stream.
That's his background noise, just us.
Yeah. Also, why don't we live stream anymore? Isn't that why we got him?
We were supposed to.
Yeah.
We
just start in the middle of the episode.
F it, who cares? All right. So last week,
Speaking of F it.
is that a Fortnite reference?
No, it's the fact that the new show is a little spicier in the language than the old show. Have you noticed that? Not our show, the Daredevil.
Oh, I was about to say,
Yeah,
I was like,
no.
I can say it?
No, you
Perfect.
can't. No, you
We
cannot.
are born again.
Oh, Apple. That was only partial.
I'll go back and censor that.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Is it that close?
He always says that, but then doesn't.
Yeah, that's the bit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I shouldn't say the bit out loud then. Welcome to week 2 of our discussion on Daredevil.
Oh, you're talking about born again is spicier.
Yeah, Born Again
Ah.
is spicier. Yeah.
Yeah, they're dropping F-bombs, right?
Yeah, which is weird because it's Disney. And they were like, oh, this is what the show was missing. Because I don't know if you noticed, they don't, I've been rewatching, they don't have F-bombs in the original series.
No.
Yeah. So Disney was like,
F it.
Yeah, I guess. I guess that's exactly what Disney said. Yeah. You think it's as violent as the original show?
I think it's more violent. They show more.
Really? You think they show more on
Yeah.
this show?
Yeah.
On Born Again?
Yeah. I mean, the part where he jump kicks the guy's tibia into oblivion, and they show it, or when he confronts the cops, or even Punisher just rampaging through everyone.
Oh, that was pretty, as the children say, tough. But I just remember Stick beheading Nobu in the original series. Fisk. Oh, well, actually, they try to top Fisk smashing that guy's head in with the
car
door. Yeah, with the head press. That was kind of crazy. But before we get
that
into,
was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
This show is way worse.
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so but before
That moment actually caught me super off guard.
Right?
I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah, you're watching Disney Plus, and then you do the little Disney Channel thing.
And then
Right.
it's been blood.
All right. Well, first and foremost, let's just be thankful that we're here to discuss the sequel to a show that I thought was over.
Praise Dan.
Is that who we praise?
Somebody's
Because
gonna
I'm
be
on
saying
the ceiling.
that made it come back.
Yeah, what was that, Dan?
Because I'm on the ceiling.
Oh, that's right.
I just
Our-
picture like
Our better
he's
angels.
like hanging like he's Spider-Man or something, just like
He
crawling
takes
on
off
the
his
wall.
mask like who's that one? The second Spider-Man?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, yeah. Is it weird that every time I think about Andrew Garfield, I think that he is an orange cat?
Oh, I think of Bill Murray as the orange cat.
No, I think of Bill Murray as a Ghostbuster.
Not on that last one.
Okay. Anyways, it was a long time coming. We got this sequel series. In case you don't know, Daredevil Born Again, half of a season. Do you want to talk about that, or you want to get to that eventually?
We'll get there.
Okay, so now this show was almost awful, and you can kind of see the cracks in the armor, the chinks in the armor, so to speak.
Yeah, which to me makes it more impressive how good this show actually ended up being.
Yes.
For what they had and then how they fixed it.
So what have you guys heard about, like, what was going on behind the scenes?
Was it the original showrunners?
Yeah, the original showrunners, which were fired, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think where they were the direction that they were going in. I mean, first off, well, spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, okay. If you haven't seen Daredevil Born Again.
And every time I say spoilers, I really just mean it for Nick, because he hasn't seen anything.
Yeah, he's still on episode 3 of season 1. Sorry, producer Nick.
But anyways, I heard that like one of the first things that they said when they were pitching the show to come back was the demise of a beloved character. Foggy Nelson.
Oh, you said Foggy Nelson.
Yeah.
Because I was like, remember, we're not allowed to say
bleep
that.
it.
Okay. Yes. Well, but see, that happened anyways, though.
No, I mean, I'm bringing up that point was they said that to the actors, and the actors were like apparently like pushing back on. They're like, we didn't feel like that was right. But I guess the rest of it made sense to them.
I heard that neither Foggy nor Karen were going to be on the show at all. And I don't know if that means that they're killed off screen or that we still get... Because if I'm not mistaken, that opening intro that we got for this season is new footage.
Yeah.
After. So, like, were they going to have been killed off screen? Like, they weren't going to hire these... Because
in the original picture, they're like, this is already like they're already working on it.
Yeah, in the original pitch. And what... Well, because they already shot it, right? They shot the series? And then they took it back to the drawing board, from what I understand.
From the interview that I had watched,
full disclosure, I haven't done a deep dive into this on purpose because, like, I was very upset about just the tidbits that I was hearing, and I honestly didn't even want to know.
From the interview that I watched, they made it seem like when Born Again was, greenlit, that was like one of the first things that they told him was going to happen.
That they were going to die.
That Foggy, at least.
I thought Karen was going to die too, is what I heard.
Or maybe she was.
And
maybe they pushed back on that and they kept her.
Yeah, I think so. That lines up, though.
But that would have been dumb.
It would have been.
I mean, I guess comics do that, but comics do everything. So
I mean, full disclosure, Karen's been dead for several years.
Yeah.
Like, upwards of 2 decades now at this point. And Foggy has died in the past, which I guess we'll talk about later. But still, like, a full sweep. I think the whole point was, it was very apparent that they were going to clean the slate. Oh, the show was not going to be tied to the original series at first, right?
I think, yeah. And that's why I was that's why, like, I was still, like, hesitant even when I was watching. I'm like, is this continue? Is this in the whatever universe we're in? What universe are we in?
If you ask Kevin Feige, 616, if you ask the actress for Miss Marvel, no, it isn't. It's 1999.
It can't be 616, right?
1999. It can't be 616 because that's the comic books, right?
Yeah.
Agreed. But I guess according to Kevin Feige, this is the mainline universe for the movies, the same way that 616 is the mainline universe for the comics, which is not how multiverse.
It's not how that works, buddy.
Yeah. So
you open this can of worms with that movie.
What's her name?
Iman Vellani.
Yeah. We stand for Iman Vellani. I think she's on the right side of history here. And Kevin Feige.
She's actually really cool.
Yeah. We love you, Kevin, but you're wrong. You're very, very wrong.
But it's okay. You're getting back into our good graces.
Yeah, that's right.
With the 2-week premiere of Ironheart.
Because because technically it's 1 week because it debuts on like one Tuesday and ends on the next Tuesday. So it's about like 7 days exact from the start to finish. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you threw me for that, man. That Iron Heart show is gonna suck.
Born Again.
Yes. Apparently, we can thank Kevin Feige for this too. Apparently, he stepped in, is what I hear. If something good happens in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was Kevin Feige. If something bad happens, he was busy and not around.
That's the narrative that's being thrown out a lot now, where it's just like now that Marvel's kind of like getting back or like getting good again, like they're consistently giving out good projects.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, "Oh, Feige was spread too thin," which I believe is true.
Well, Variety is reporting, right? It was Variety, or was it? Oh no, the Washington Post actually.
A lot of different people were starting to pick that up, but like I can imagine, yeah, he was spread thin. Like
media may be a propaganda wing. Continue
with the like amount of stuff that they were doing, but I was hearing that like he was kind of against TV, which I think if you can maybe I don't know what the situation was like. Higher ups at Disney wanted other shows, more properties.
I mean, they wanted content for sure. I mean, they sold Disney Plus basically on The Mandalorian and then a bunch of Marvel shows.
Yeah,
right?
I think if you can contain some like more of the Marvel shows and pick some like I don't know, like do we
need Eyes of Wakanda? Do we need Ironheart? Do we need? I mean, What If could have been good, but in the end, did we need several seasons of What If?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did we need?
We did need 97.
Echo. Did we need Echo?
Jury's still out, I guess.
Yeah, like I thought it was okay. It started strong. Maybe
it just seemed like she was gonna be more integrated into the main stuff now, but I don't feel like she is.
Yeah, I feel like it just kind of happened. And
she was in Hawkeye, then her show and
Hot Guy,
and that was it.
Yeah, so TV's kind of been a mishmash, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this one show that brilliantly, through the Frankenstein process of editing, we got a pretty decent show, and that is Daredevil.
I was happily surprised. I think what is it, 3-episode premiere?
2
episodes, because this show was like what 16 episodes?
No, what 8?
No, but what was supposed to be?
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be 16
or like 20 something. No,
I don't think it was 20 something. I'll look it up. Go
22
ahead.
Maybe. Anyways, when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, we're hyped. We're back. We're so back. We got this." And then they cut it down, and I'm like, "Oh no!" And then I heard that they were making changes, and I'm like, But from what I'm seeing now, it's like if Rogue One was any indicator, I'm like maybe changes are good.
18 episodes, and it was
18.
cut down to 9.
Yeah, half a season.
Yeah. Oh, you were right. It's half a season.
Yeah. And
to be fair, the original series was 13 episodes, right? And sometimes we would be like, maybe it should have been 10. I don't know about you.
For 2, I think 2 should have been 10.
I felt that way about 1. 1 is great and it's terrific, but you could trim the fat. It was more so for like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, which were good shows too, but like 10 would have been probably better. Yeah. Daredevil, they don't waste any time, but a tighter narrative I think probably could have been. But anyways.
That's true. 2 did have a lot going on.
See, I feel like season 2 is like 2 different seasons. Like I feel like Punisher could have been a season. I feel like Elektra could have been a different season.
Yeah.
But anyways. So
I forgot what I was saying.
I'm sorry that I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It is half a season.
It's half a season.
It's half a season. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of it.
It's not exactly back the way that it was.
But I think that's kind of, to me, that was kind of the point for me. I think time has passed. We're not the same people we were back then. They're not the same people.
Very true.
We've evolved. We've changed.
We hope.
And some of us. And that's what I got from the show, where it's like, if you were expecting a carbon copy to just pick up where they left off, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, time has clearly passed, and these characters are in different points in their lives.
Yeah. The characters are older.
Yeah, and they've seen different things, and it's just it doesn't have to be the same thing for it to be good. Because I think,
like Vision said, right? A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Oh, I thought you said Star Wars. I thought you meant like Star Wars visions.
No. sometimes it needs to be born again.
Yeah. And I think that I did like this. Like, I don't know how people felt. I liked the tone of it. I liked how it looked. I liked that it was a bit, brighter.
Brighter, yes.
I think in the original Netflix show,
I couldn't see what was going on
it
ever.
was dark, and I think that's by design, but also by budget. And so I'm okay with this. Obviously, these are different characters. But I had a question to you. I think was when I was watching. I was like, "Is it the same? Is it carrying on from the show? Is this?" I still couldn't believe it.
Yeah, at the beginning, yeah.
I was
It's
still
unclear.
I was still like,
There's still question marks there. Like, what the heck happened during the blip, and
because
and what happened to him being in prison? I mean, did we get any answers about him? No, right? Because I've read theories and conjecture. Yeah, Fisk. How do you get out of prison? TD.
Maybe he got blipped, and then people, when they got unblipped, they couldn't go back to prison.
Yeah, I've heard theories like this. Like, did he serve his term? Like, I guess we don't really know how long.
Which
his
also
term
was my
supposed to be.
question. Where, like, what are the laws in New York for a That's why I was confused. Was like, he's a convicted felon, and he's the mayor of New York City.
Well, I mean, you could be a convicted felon and be the president of the United States. So
but isn't there a certain amount of time that needs to be served? Or
I mean, apparently not. Apparently, you don't even have to serve any time. Even when you're convicted while you're already elected.
Marvel just said F it.
Oh no, I'm talking
America just said F
yeah,
it.
there you go. I feel like the implication there is that he was absolved of his crime somehow. But we don't know because they don't address it at all. And you know what? Maybe they will address it now that they're not kind of tying it in post-production. Because the reality is, I think that the show was very specifically trying to ignore these things. And then all the reshoots start to acknowledge these things, but not enough that like they can give us all the answers.
Because I don't think you can run from reality. And art imitates life. And when I tell you it was a bit eerie, watching that show and watching things in real life transpire, I was like, that's crazy.
I mean, it feels like that for a lot of things. Like Mickey 13.
Yeah.
There was another instance. It's almost all the time. Everything. Oh, Andor. Like whenever these figures.
Yeah.
It feels like it's commentary on the state of today. But it was like, oh, but they should shot it like a year or even 2 years.
It was like, it's like how you see how everyone's talking about how the Simpsons predict, what would happen in the future.
Yeah, the Simpsons just understands like human behavior. Like they just understand trends
and jokes, and they were making jokes, and then they actually ended up happening. So does that tell you? But I liked the dynamic of Matt and Fisk, and then
at the end, that's the heart of the show.
Yeah, and you see that clearly at the end of the first episode. But it's like they are trying to subdue their natures, from the characters that we know about them, and they show it in little things like Fisk not really eating what he wants to eat and eating super like healthy, and because he's trying to get leaner.
And let me tell you, I've never related to Fisk more, and I was like, oh, Fisk is human. I know what it feels like.
Yeah,
to look at that mirror and be like, this has not been the best couple of months.
Yeah,
it's stressful. You can't watch what you eat when you're worried about work all the time.
Matt just being a Riz Lord
for real. But that's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that they brought that because I think he was like smooth in the original show, but they didn't really show like him going out of his way, aside from like the night nurse and Elektra.
No, I feel like Karen, the night nurse, Elektra. I get it, but you're saying like outside of the main
I feel like
cast,
here it's just like
every woman that
anyone. And so
you know what it is though? I do feel like we expect the women that because they're all like main cast in the original show. But like if you don't know she's the night nurse and Karen and Elektra, it's like it really is every woman too. Like
yeah. But
I think even that old Hispanic lady, I think she was into Matt. So.
Mrs. Cardenas?
Yeah, there you go. Cardenas.
Sounds like a Taco Bell menu item.
Sounds like a music producer who wrote our theme.
Carnitas. No, but I liked how every episode we were like getting like closer and closer to that, like, we're chipping away who they really are. And they have that confrontation where it's like, if you do anything as mayor, that's, if you go back to your other activities, I'll be there. And he's like, if you go back to being Daredevil, I'll be there. And, that threat. And I actually really like the conversation they have in the diner.
Yeah.
Like thinking about all the history that they've had and like, the facade of these two men that they can really change and, try and be better.
And I think they
Whatever
both
that
want
means.
to.
Yeah.
I don't-
They genuinely do
Yeah.
want to. They believe it. But
Kingpin, or Fisk and Matt both want to move on, I think.
because
Which is a great tragedy of it.
Yeah, and they do feel very strongly about New York. They love their city. They just have two different ways of going about it.
As much as a person like Fisk can love anything.
Yeah.
To paraphrase David Xanatos on
Yeah.
Gargoyles.
And I think it's just, I mean, that stuff comes from, their childhoods. And, Fisk was forced to kind of make a choice that he crossed the line when he was very young. And I don't think Matt ever got to that point
Yeah.
until now. Well, because I guess it's like, because Matt had that taken from him. He saw that firsthand and it was taken from him. His dad was taken from him.
He saw the first hand.
Hand stuff. Fisk did it himself.
Hand stuff?
Hammer time.
Oh, it was hammer time.
Yeah. And so I think, that evolves with the characters as they grow. And
Yeah, you know what? Not to deviate from making a joke about it.
Mhm.
You're right. Like that's the crossroads, right? Taking the action and not taking the action, and that's where it's almost like they're the same person until that point.
yeah. And I think that's just, I mean, that has to do with the trauma that obviously comes from what they went through. And
They're like Burr and Hamilton.
yeah, exactly.
I think perfect foils.
Yeah.
And that's what you want out of a hero villain dynamic.
Yeah. And just I think that episode was brilliant where he basically has to save Fisk. I thought that was fantastic television where I'm just like, I was actually, never mind. I won't mention his name here.
Well, you were talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Barely.
Removed.
But you were saying.
And so I was talking, I was like, dude, this is incredible. Like he has to save basically his natural born enemy from another insane person, which also did he give him the tools to get out?
I don't think so. I think that, and we're talking about, for those of you who have seen it, to speak in not direct terms, I think when we're talking about the confrontation in the, I guess in the, well, it's not the, he ends up in the ER or the whatever, the medical care facility. Mm-hmm. But when they have that confrontation in the prison, I think Bullseye just goads him into acting out of rage. I do not think that it was his intention. I don't see how that would make sense. Like,
yeah, because I thought about, because that's how I interpreted the first time. Like, he did it on purpose, and like those lives are kind of like on him.
Yeah, exactly. So
like he has to know he's gonna.
I think they're on him indirectly, but I don't think he's like, oh, I'm gonna help a psychopath. Yeah. Like, be free.
Yeah, that, and I love the dynamic with him and his with Heather, his relationship. You didn't like it?
I did not like it.
Really? Why?
I don't like her. I think she could have been a little more written, a little more reasonable and logical. I think that there's some red flags there that she probably should have. She's really focused on Matt, and I don't think she's listening to what's going on around her. Additionally, she psychoanalyzes him a lot.
Well, I think that's the point. I think that's the
I think she's not good at her job.
I think the funny part is that like she is a psychoanalyst and she does it to Matt, but I think that's the point where it's like you're therapizing your significant other, and I don't think that should be happening.
Yeah, and if I'm not supposed to like her, then fine, but I'm not sure that I wasn't supposed to like her.
And I think those were,
she's kind of a victim too of like Matt's flakiness, you know. Obviously we know he's off saving people, but like he really disrespects her in the sense of like he has no answers for his behavior ever. Like, trust me, bro, that's basically his answer to her for everything. And
Yeah, and there's sometimes I'm like, are you
he's
dumb?
shady. He's shady.
Are you dumb?
Shady,
Yeah.
to be clear.
And I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that character. I didn't think she was gonna live the whole season.
Yeah. But apparently she has a bigger role to play in the future.
She does. I didn't know.
No, I mean, apparently. I feel like they set her up, right?
Oh.
Because she has now a role with Fisk, right?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So I think there's more story to tell there, apparently.
And I think that's why they introduced that character, because it was at first like she's their therapist, and it's like, oh, this is a good dynamic, I guess.
The what's the villain that that dies in the office? Oh, Muse. Muse, was he a part of the reshoots or was he part of the original show?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I think they did a good job. He's a newer character. I'm not really familiar. I have never read a Muse story because he's a new character. And by newer means like the past 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like the past 10, 15 years. But did it feel like kind of out of place, the Muse storyline? Like it was just a thing that happened. It seemed like it was building.
Well, it's mainly because it ended so quickly.
Yes, it was building, and then it was like a 2-episode thing.
I mean,
like,
they could have.
He's here and he's there.
It could, because the show was longer. I can see how it would have been longer, like more fleshed out. But they probably had to end it abruptly because they shortened the show. The length.
Yeah. So that felt weird and disconnected. I also felt like going back to what you mentioned about there was a ultimatum, like Matt cannot go back to being Daredevil, and then at one point, just like Disney, he was like, forget it, and then he just does it, right?
F it.
Yeah, you said that, not me.
What about that?
They just seemed abrupt. It was like, here's the tension building, like they can't go back to their previous activity, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it anyways.
Well, I mean, he does it to save the girl, right?
I guess there wasn't anyone to save before that.
I mean, I think it's just very personal to him.
I guess.
I think it's because he knows that she's going to be in danger. He knows that she's going to die if he doesn't do anything. So,
which I thought she was gonna die, because I feel like he got a lot of blood out of her.
Yeah,
but
he did.
Yeah,
and I just saw it as he was forced to, and once because that's the thing that set him over the edge, and he's back now. That's what pushed him over. As much as he was trying to hold back, his client dying, and he kind of pretty much knows who it is, everything, he's still holding back. But I think it's a little girl that needs to be saved.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about White Tiger. What did you think about that introduction to that character? I'm guessing you knew nothing about White Tiger. Yeah. I'm familiar with the girl version of it, but not with the original character too much.
Yeah.
What did you think about
we didn't really get to see much, and I think that was the big tragedy. I also think it was tragedy how he actually the actor passed away in real life. I thought the episode was solid, the trial, and they win.
I do.
But then they don't. He doesn't. I guess.
He does. Yeah. And sometimes it's futile, and I think that's kind of that message that you can do everything that you're supposed to do and still end up on the losing side.
Which is harken back for me. It harkened back to season 3, where they got this guy. They got Fisk in jail. They did everything the right way. They were getting the evidence, and he still is able to get away with it.
Yeah.
And the other side of that coin, where it's they did things the right way. He was free, and he still dies for it. And I think this show is a lot about because he could have stopped being White Tiger. Maybe the cops would have kept chasing him, but he decided to put that suit on because that's just who he is. That's in his nature. That's who he is, and I think that was. I
would have come up with a different character. I would have been like, I'm the red.
I'm the red tiger.
Lion. I'm the red lion. I'm the green panther.
Goblin. And then, so that's what I felt a lot about in this show, where it's just characters with histories and, trying to do better, but sometimes you just really can't.
Yeah. Speaking of characters with history, one of the big characters that returns to this series is one of the highlights of not just the Daredevil series, season 2 particularly, but also his own 2-season series that he had.
Spider-Man.
That's not who I was talking about, but it was the real life. Oh, not the real life, but the Punisher, Frank Castle. One of my favorite characters, which is why season 2 is
In Rivals.
very dear. Yes, he is judge, jury, and executioner. But they almost didn't get him back for the show. You know about this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause he didn't agree with what they were doing.
Yeah.
Or was it Karen?
Yeah,
they were gonna kill Karen, right?
Yeah, they were gonna kill Karen, and then they were like, "And we want the Punisher back." And Punisher was like, "Why would I come back if not for Karen? Like, she's literally my connection to the show."
Yeah. And she literally was the connection in how they used her.
Yeah, in both the original series and in this one. What did you think of his role on this show?
Loved it. The guy's just so good, man. Like as Frank Castle, like
he's no Thomas Jane, but
he steals the he steals the screen when he's on it. Like he's just so captivating to watch.
Side note, you think I'll get like a multiverse moment where we have Thomas Jane and Dolph Lundgren and but I don't even know this guy's name.
Shane. John Bernthal.
John Bernthal. See, he's like my third favorite Punisher. He's great. He's like my third favorite Punisher. I'm sorry, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I'm just kidding. He's not my third favorite Punisher. He's amazing. But you think I'll get all 3 Punishers side by side? No, okay. No. A man can dream. Marvel.
Fortnite, maybe.
Kevin. I don't even have one Punisher. Anyways,
which is wait, what?
Yeah, the game about guns doesn't have the one guy who's shooting up everybody.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. We just got Bucky the Winter Soldier, so yeah, it's been like 7 years.
He was fantastic. I really enjoyed his Netflix show.
How did you feel about
The hell was that?
the producer Nick just turned around? What, you want to explain yourself?
Oh, say that again. So our producer's a meme lord.
Yeah. Especially a Marvel Rivals meme lord, even though he's never played the game. They were hinting at like a romantic relationship between Frank and Karen. Did you pick up on that?
On this show or the previous
I think
one?
on this show. I refuse to believe on the previous show. Do you think it was always there? Or?
I think it's the same. No, I don't think it's romantic, but I think it's the same thing from the second season, or from
the new show.
From both shows.
Okay,
I think it's the same type of thing, and I see it the same way.
But you don't think like when Matt is like, "Oh, did you put on cologne for somebody?" and that's how he finds out that Karen's coming?
I think he cares very deeply for her, but I think that his mind is so like meant to mush that like he might have those feelings, or the other way around. He might love her, but would never like act on it, or or he just feels this way towards her. But I don't think that's a thing to pursue.
Okay. I hope not. I really hope not, because that is not a thing like a Punisher.
I just don't think that's Punisher, and
Yeah.
I don't think John Bernthal will go for that. I think that obviously the connection to Karen, that makes sense, thematically, but I don't think like he'd want it to be like to have a relationship with Karen, because that would just be, I don't know. I think there's too much history with Matt.
Yeah, and I don't think the Punisher can have.
I don't think Punisher, like, that's not that character, because then he stops being the Punisher.
I kind of hinted at the real life implication of a Punisher, vigilante justice, especially lethal vigilante justice. We've kind of seen an upswing of approval for some vigilante justice out in the real world. Where do you think the Punisher fits as who is a very controversial figure?
We had this discussion.
I think we did. But
was it with you, Dan, that we talked about this?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it wasn't on the
you guys
show.
haven't talked about
I think
this.
we had this conversation in real life. I think it was before when we were planning on the show. But the Punisher can be a very controversial figure. In fact, he hasn't been around for a bit. I don't know if you know, they like redesigned him in the comics. He became a samurai. He didn't have guns. He had a new logo because, his traditional logo had been co-opted by, right-wing militant groups. Also, and I think this show addresses it being co-opted by the military and police force. So the Punisher's kind of been on the forefront. In fact, maybe that's why he's not in Fortnite, like you mentioned. A children's game. He is in Marvel Rivals now, and he's on this show. So clearly, Marvel, at least in some corners of their media, are not afraid to put on that skull and like tackle this character. But where do you think the Punisher as a character lies in the culture and society that we are in today?
I'm gonna let Dan start with this one. Give him a voice.
Yeah, let me start with the hardest question. That's crazy.
You're welcome.
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I think George is right. It's brave of him to continue to tackle the character, but I guess if you continue to push him in a certain direction, you can maybe pull away his influence from these circles that are not as great.
Yeah.
I kind of like the direction he starts going in the show, where he's like, "I'm not on your side. Like I'm doing something else."
Yeah, I think
that's just my thought.
Yeah, I think he's just like you said with the other character. I think he's a force, and it's not necessarily like does he take down people that do unjust things, bad people? Yeah, sure. But what is it? I think Matt says that. Matt even says that with when he's talking to Karen, I think, where he's just like, that's not your job. Like, you can't decide who lives and who dies.
Yeah.
Like, you can't decide to be judge, jury, and executioner. That's why we have, rules. And yeah, I know people like, I think in today's age, I think it's becoming more frequent where there's just a hyper aggression in the air. Sometimes it feels like
Power fantasy is becoming reality.
yeah, and it's just like
I think I hinted at that last week in
Yeah.
regards to Punisher and even Batman on some level.
yeah, and then like if this is like all that this is like all that you see, and one of the things that I've noticed in the most recent couple of years is just like what wasn't acceptable before is becoming commonplace now.
Yeah.
And it's starting just with words and freedom of speech and things just that like are hurtful, and hate being just out in the open like that I think is just more, it's more common now. And I think that it's easy to misconstrue this person, because I mean Punisher isn't out to like be some sort of leader or symbol or anything,
Or even hero.
Yeah.
Hero. I don't think Frank sees himself as a hero.
he doesn't.
I think he's cursed to walk the earth seeking vengeance. I mean, he's basically human Ghost Rider.
Yeah. And that's not a person you look up to. That's not a
Yeah.
person you glorify. And he doesn't want to be that. But when people start taking that, like people start doing things in his name, or like, try to use him as an example, I think that's when issues start. That's when the problem starts. And I don't think you should shy away from those topics. I think those should be, covered and done, but like, don't just show one side of it. Like, I think that's important too,
Yeah.
where it's like this person is doing this and like he's on his own side really, but for right now he's helping, he's aligned with our heroes.
Right. Well, and even then, like that relationship could only last for so long.
Exactly. And you see it when he's introduced. It's just like Punisher's about to kill people, Daredevil stops him. They're both fighting the same people, but just the end goal is different. But that end goal is like the division of killing someone versus not killing someone is so important. It's everything at that point. It's what separates Daredevil and them, or what separates Daredevil from the people that do it freely. Like,
and it's also what like separates like order from chaos. It's what separates
exactly. That's why
man from beast.
That's why we have rules, and it's like, yeah, you can talk about it in this fantasy, in this fiction, in this fictionalized world, where it's not real. But we live in a world where like once you start to, it's a dangerous line. You start playing a dangerous game once you start bringing those themes into the real world, where it's like this isn't the same. Like, we don't have superheroes coming from the sky, people that can fly like that.
Yeah.
This is real life, and like you're taking something that's fiction and trying to turn it into reality. And when you do that, you start to lose sense of what is real.
Yeah.
And I think that can be very dangerous. But also, I feel like that's the trajectory we're headed in as a society.
I mean, I also think that, you know, again, going back to the theme of power fantasy, we'd love for someone to be able to just execute the pedophiles and the murderers and the
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was
criminals.
alluding to, because I've been seeing more and more of that where I won't name names, but there was a person in the medical field. That was a story that I heard. It was the person in the medical field that was training.
It was you, Steve.
That was doing training on life support and stuff like that. And then they're like, talking about saving this person's life, and they're like, you got to do this, this, and this, unless they're a pedophile. Then you just stop. And you just don't.
But
they meant it as a joke.
Okay.
But I mean, to say
I
that
thought this was your new training.
To say that as an official training,
Yeah.
Like to just be open about that, like I don't know, like I feel like people are becoming desensitized to humanity, and I think that's why there are rules for the people that do
I think that's
unjust things to be punished, to serve, to see justice.
Would that be called the Hippocratic oath?
Hippocratic oath? To do no harm.
No, if to do no harm unless they're you don't agree with them.
Hypocritical.
That would be the Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
So
the line.
Matt himself is operating in a gray area, right? What he does, taking the law into his own hands to a point, but the limits that what he does is illegal, right? And I mean, looking at it from a black and white perspective, it's wrong, right? Especially he's almost a hypocrite in the sense that he's taking this oath for justice, but then takes justice into his own hands.
Which is, yeah, exactly. Which is the point I was trying to say. Like with him being a lawyer and him doing what he does is interesting. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating because I think we as humans, we work within systems, but we also work outside of them.
Yeah, and because it's like
everyone breaks the rules.
But he works for the justice system and he works using the law, right?
Yeah.
And he has this strong moral compass, but then you add in the fact that he is religious, and I think that's what was good about the show. We'll talk about it now, where it's like he seems to have strayed away from that a bit on purpose. And people say there's less religious themes in the show, and I'm like, yeah, because he's kind of blocked himself off from God. Like they go out of their way to show you.
Yeah.
He walks by the church and doesn't go in and just walks right past it, and you can tell that this is a man who has had a certain set of beliefs his whole life. And yes, they were challenged at one point, but he came back.
He's Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to a certain point, there was a line that he was willing to cross.
Skywalker, not the apostle.
Yeah. There was a line that he was willing to cross, and he thought he did cross it. He thought he killed Poindexter. And just, like I said, trying to hide Daredevil, trying to keep him at bay, trying to keep, like, that's not a part of his life anymore. He was also hiding the parts that made him him.
Yeah.
The religious aspects, the belief in God. He was just like, I'm putting that to the side. I'm burying that in the trunk with my Daredevil outfit.
Yeah.
And
burying his angels and demons.
Yeah. And I think, like, even them showing that, I think, is also very fascinating. And I think that's what makes his character so interesting. But going back to what you were saying with the line with Daredevil working in a gray area.
Well, that he operates in a gray area, and the Punisher crosses that line like extraordinarily. And I think sometimes allowing us to operate in the gray, it's easy to cross that line, or to accept the crossing of that line. Maybe we're not the guy with our finger on the trigger, but we'll accept, right, crossing that line because we see that as true justice. And I think that's the real power of the gray, that we're not sure if it's right. Like, is Matt's journey for justice a just one? Like, is it a fair and right one, or is he doing more harm than good? Because and this has been a theme, I think, in these kind of stories, in the Dark Knight trilogy, etc. But that theme of escalation, like, does Kingpin and Bullseye, do they get as bad as they are if Matt isn't this antagonist? forcing them to become deeper and deeper entrenched in who they are and how they operate.
Yeah, and I mean, these are things that I think the MCU has tackled well, and the things that I constantly, come back to whenever thinking about this is there's two lines. I think it's with Vision. I think it's in Civil War when he's telling Cap, and he's like, there have been so and so many instances of powered people, whatever.
That's not like a great line. Who wrote that line?
No, that's not.
Oh, that's you're paraphrasing.
Super paraphrasing.
Okay.
No, he was just like, but basically, our very strength invites challenge,
Yes.
and like it's true to an extent. Now, the other line is with Peter Parker in Civil War, which is a great movie apparently, where he's telling Tony
the A24 film.
where he's telling Tony, or Tony asks him what's his MO, and Peter's just like, when you can do the things that I can do, and like you don't do anything, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you. And it's like, I think that the world is what it is, and I do believe that it's in an unjust system. I think people do need to take action, because at the end of the day, if no one does anything, what happens? And then you get like a story like Andor in the Empire. When a system is corrupt, who is going to be there to fight back? You're just going to be willed into submission.
It's true. We would all like to be law-abiding citizens, but in the end, every great movement involves going against the laws, the norms, of society. It's like we don't get civil rights, we don't get suffrage, we don't get any great movement throughout history if it doesn't involve breaking the rules that are established by our society.
Yeah, so it's like, it's hard to say like, oh, if he wasn't Daredevil, then is like, are there going to be other? There's always going to be bad men. There's always going to be bad people looking to cause harm to others.
Yeah.
And and that's why I think why we're so attracted to these stories, is just because like these people are being selfless in a way where they're putting themselves on the line to protect others, to help others, to be heroes. I think with Frank, it gets very muddied because he's just killing people. He's taking life. They're not seeing really justice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we go on and on in society, I think we're seeing death as a satisfactory price to pay for certain crimes. We're going back to an eye for an eye, back to ancient civilizations. And it's just like, you'd think that we're kind of devolving as a society instead of evolving. And
or circular in nature, right?
Yeah.
Returning to our primitive form.
And I did like how they handled Punisher, where it was just kind of like, he's gone through so much trauma, like obviously
yeah, he's obviously not well.
Yeah, he's mentally unstable. And like, he's just not a guy that you cheer for, but he is like a very compelling character.
Yeah.
He's a very fascinating character to read, to watch. And
I think we should question ourselves though, because we find ourselves cheering for him, and we should probably stop and think, well, why? Like, should I be?
Yeah.
Because I know I watched with my wife, and she's like, I know you love the Punisher, but like how can you root for this man? You know what I mean?
No, yeah. And then again, it's different because it's fiction. It's a comic book.
It's again, like, fantasy.
But sometimes, and that's what I'm saying, like, so when you can't tell the difference anymore between fiction and reality, that's when you start to have a problem, and that's when you start to take things too far. And I think it's fine to enjoy these things, but if a person like the Punisher were to exist in real life, he'd be branded a terrorist.
Right.
There'd be manhunt searches for him, and I'm thinking,
as they should be.
Yeah, and I think about it like, I think about it like when I'm watching the show and there's manhunts, searching out for him, and I'm like, I'd be terrified of this person.
And that's why, like, on a show like this, or just when you're depicting this character, it has to be black and white, ironically, because the Punisher is clad in black and white. But like the cops have to be corrupt if they're going up against the cops. Otherwise, he cannot go up against the cops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the bad guys have to be bad guys. There can be no collateral damage. You know, Punisher can't accidentally kill a child. Otherwise, that's it. It's game over. Like you've broken the character.
Yeah.
But real life doesn't work like that. There's always collateral damage.
Yeah. And it's the things that you take with you. And like, let's say like for people that say are in favor of, the person should die. That person deserves to die.
That
And-
CEO of the health.
Yeah. And it's just like, was what the CEO is doing right? No. But, and that actually is a really good point that you bring up, where it's just like the social reaction to that was surprising. To a man being murdered
In cold blood.
in cold blood, and cheering for and again, the person that did the murder, he's like, I'm not looking to like be, I need some type of good guy. I don't like think about that. Like I know what I'm doing is wrong, but this is, I feel like what I needed to do. And you see people like, praising for him, making memes about him, celebrating him, like
Sending him pictures
yeah, and like,
of their bodies.
and it's just kind of like, where are we, as a society? And because you'd always think, yeah, I can be the one, like I'd be the one to run in that burning building,
Yeah.
I can be the one to take that, like, can you take this person's life? Because when you do, that's gonna stay with you for the rest of yours.
Yeah.
That person had a family, that person had friends, that person knew people. Maybe what they were doing wasn't right, but that's still gonna stick with you. Let's say even in self-defense, and you end up killing someone, that's still gonna stick with you. You might have been justified in doing it.
Yeah. And that's
But-
where Punisher is like with his history in the war and all that.
Yeah. Like you might be justified in doing so, but all that stuff will still stick with you as a human being, as a person. And the more and more that we see that people are just making light of it and making jokes, making fun. And like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a saint either. Like I've laughed, and like, there are things that I find, funny because it's not directly affecting me. It's not
Right.
in front of me. It's not a visceral experience that I'm going through.
Or you disassociate, not saying that that's good, but you disassociate the reality of that with the whatever it is. that you-
Exactly. But if I'm a family member of the guy that got shot and died, I'm going through a terrible experience right now. I might be hating the person that did it. Like
Yeah.
I am like this. None of this is funny, And I think
and not even to say that, like, and again, I'm not saying he does, but like that, even to say if he did deserve to die, like, is this some random person's judgment? Like, what happens the next time someone believes someone else deserves to die? Like, is that
Because
the world we want to live in?
but that's the thing that I'm talking about, is like, I feel like that was coming from a place where it's like things, and because there's always been incidents like that. They haven't been like as like common, obviously assassination attempts doing, with certain political figures, but it just seems like the things that you wouldn't hear about for 20 years are happening more and more frequently. People are getting bolder. People are being, emboldened to do heinous acts, crazy acts because of what? Because they're either inspired by things, or they think that it's okay now, or they just don't care anymore.
Yeah. And I think, to wrap up, I think that's what makes the Daredevil series, this franchise as a whole, these continuing series specifically, I think that's what makes it so relevant, because I don't think the question is like who is Fisk, who is Frank, who is Matt in the sense of our real world, like comparisons, but I think is why does the world that we live in create these people, the vigilantes who take life and death into their own hands, the criminal masterminds who control and seek power, at almost no cost, at any cost, or the man and women who work within the system but subvert that system because they know deep inside that the institutions that they believe in and operate within are flawed and broken and sometimes seem irreparable.
Yeah.
And on that note, if you haven't seen Daredevil,
Go watch it.
yeah, Sorry if we spoiled everything, but
That's on you, honestly.
Yeah. You said you're going to watch it this weekend, producer Nick. So those of you that didn't make that promise,
make it now.
Until next time, keep seeking justice. Justice. The blind lawyer.